Are you the type of person that needs proof before you can believe in the unseen world? Or are you the type of person that you just won't let yourself really know what you know unless there's some way you can see it, taste it, smell it, hear it, before you can believe that? Or how about if you hear your name being called and there's nobody else standing in the room, or you hear a message come through that tells you don't get in the car, or don't turn down this alley. And if you you can't see it, it's in the unseen world, do you still just kind of barrel through and do it anyway? Well, those are the things that I'm going to be sharing some stories about today, because with the blue light movement that happened and talking about blue star beings and blue grids, around our auras and the world, the earthly world, I got a lot of questions about how can you prove that? Or how can that possibly be real? Or how can you possibly really know that? And I totally get it, because, I'm not just going to follow that, the bait going down that path unless I can really kind of feel a sense of certainty about it. So I'm going to just tell a few stories today. If you've never heard of me before, my name is Nancy Rebecca. I'm a registered nurse. I can see in the physical world at the same time I see in the spiritual world, or in another way I can say it is I look at the 3D world through a 5D lens. And for those who've been following me a while, I'm really excited that you are back again. So I'm going to just tell a few stories about having experiences of the unseen world, and where I've had to kind of just move through it and believe it, and enough to take action so that I could start to build that confidence that maybe I was having an experience with the unseen world. So I have a few notes here. You'll see me kind of looking down once in a while. But the first thing that I want to say to you, because I teach intuitive psychic development at a professional level. So for those of you who really know, you don't have to totally know that you're intuitive, but if you want to think and consider having a professional practice of working and helping people reconnect with their own soul and to heal, then yeah, that's what I teach. So what came up for me when I was kind of meditating on this question, because a lot of people have posted like, oh, how do you know this is true? How should I know that I should believe you? And it's like, you shouldn't. You should not believe me until you have a sense of your own experience. But I just want to tell you this, that I also can't prove, because it's not, it's unseen, it's unknowable at this time. But based on my 30 years experience, we are so rapidly awakening to our intuition. You are so awakening to your own intuition that the way you think now, you're not going to think next week. And the way you think next week, you're not going to be a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. You are rapidly changing. So I suggest you kind of listen up. So one of the things Spirit brought up to me, because I said, how do I answer that question? And they said, well, let's talk about Einstein. So when Albert Einstein had a mathematical equation, like these are friggin' numbers on a piece of paper that said, about relativity, energy can't be created nor destroyed. And, we had all these mathematical equations. He had a lot of mathematical equations to really talk about our universe and how our universe interacts with each other. We couldn't see it. He happened to have a degree, a high-level degree in mathematics. He didn't do very well in grade school, and they were numbers on paper. But and he got a lot of flack for it. It's like, where are you coming up with this stuff? But it was unseen until it was seen. And so he went with it. He's like, I've got these mathematical equations that are saying that this is possible and this is true, but we may not know this in my lifetime. So there's been many things that he said were theory. So that's kind of what we can say. Well, it's a theory that the blue light is coming, and it's a theory that we are awakening, and we're only going to know when we look back a year from now or 5 years from now and say, holy smokes, we were really expanding in our consciousness and we didn't know it. So we can say right now it's a theory. But the other one was Noah's Ark, and I do believe that this was a true story. So Noah is talking about the great flood. The great flood is coming. And Noah really believed when he heard this unseen, unproven, unknowable truth that there was a great flood coming. But Noah was really concerned about his community, his friends, his family. So he went around and he was telling everybody, there's a great flood coming. I'm going to start building an ark. You should probably build a boat. This is what you should do to get ready. And they horse laughed him, out of the building. They were like, you're crazy. Why? Because it's unseen, it's unheard, it's unknowable. And what happened? A great flood came, and all of a sudden, all the people in the community are gathering around this one ark saying, let us in, let us in, let us in. We believe you now. And Noah's like, I'm so sorry. I don't have enough room now. I can't do this. Can you imagine how tragic, that would have been for him to watch all those people that he loved because they couldn't believe anything unless they could see it for fact or they could hear a real person say a major flood is coming, and they probably would have expected them to have some high level degree before they would even listen to them. All right. So there was an experience that I had. So I was doing a reading with someone, and as a registered nurse, I always like to look at the health of the energy field, the person that came in. Their energy field was way out of sorts. The person had some really painful experiences from childhood. And so as those experiences were starting to loosen up, and this is the thing, the person doesn't tell me they're having the trauma or the pain. The aura shows it. It shows up in the aura, so the aura can be really contracted. So we kind of talked about this, and I don't ask for people to share with me, but I can see it because I'm a clairvoyant. Sometimes I can hear the pain. Sometimes I can hear crying. Sometimes I can feel the pain, or sometimes maybe I don't get any of that, but I just know that this person's had a lot of pain and they've come because they want to feel better. And isn't that what most of us want? We want to feel better. All right, so the woman really started to panic a little bit as things were kind of getting stirred up. And so what I'll do is I'll start moving energy pretty quick, but to try to help her to feel settled. But what I did was I set the intention and I prayed quickly and I asked Jesus, if the Spirit of Jesus, Spirit of the Ascended Master would come into the room and just to help calm the room and maybe provide a sense of peace for my client. So there was definitely this movement, this shift in the room. Now I saw this essence of Jesus come into the room. Now, was that my imagination? Maybe. Could I feel it? Yeah. But could I feel it and see it because my imagination made it real for me? Possibly. This is where it gets flipped a little bit. So when Jesus comes in the room, the woman calms down. She stops crying. She's feeling calm. She said, I felt a peace come over me. And then she starts talking about that she's really sensitive to energy. And she said, sometimes I can see things. And I said, okay, so can you see things right now? And she said, yes, but she was a little reluctant to share it with me. And she said, like right now, I can see Jesus standing next to you. Now, I didn't call Jesus out loud. I just was like telepathically sending a message out to the universe, calling on the presence of Jesus or the essence of Jesus or the love and healing capacity of Jesus to come into the room. I didn't say anything, but she saw it. So how is that possible if it's unseeable, by the average person, unknowable, unhearable, unfeelable, but how do you still know that that's true? So, another little story. And I would love it if you would share your stories in the comments section. I figured this is a collaborative effort because I get it. The people that were asking and commenting, like, how do you know this? They weren't saying it from a confrontational point of view. They honestly really wanted to know. And I know there were many years I wanted to know, like, how can I be seeing this if it's not seeable by anybody else? And I went through a period of time where I thought it was a bit kooky. All right, Australia. I'm in the Australian outback. It's 1998. I've gone there because I want to work with the Aboriginal healers in Australia. I am with a traveling group. All right. So it's hot. It's like 110 degrees, and it is hot in the outback of Australia. The bottom line is we're hiking like 7 miles. I was much heavier than I am now. And before I knew it, now I've lost the group. I'm way behind. I can't keep up. It's too hot. I'm really afraid that I'm going to get like heat stroke and things like that. Suddenly, this blue being shows up. And it's interesting that I've forgotten that I had that vision. But it was a female with multiple arms, like we see in Hinduism. And she says to me telepathically, pretend that you're blue like I am and dance with me. So here I'm in the middle of the outback in Australia, and nobody's even trying to find me. And so I just start kind of, like dancing and moving my arms around, and it flipped my panic that I was going to have heat stroke, and I made it to the end, the 7 miles. Now, for me, I thought, well, whatever my imagination did, it helped me to feel better. End of story. So we go to the hotel that night, and I had a new roommate. So we were trading roommates. I had a new roommate, and this new roommate says, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes I can see things. And I'm like, oh, really? Like what kinds of things can you see? And she said, well, I can see this blue lady standing next to you with all these arms. All right, so I couldn't prove that that was a truth, but I got that validation. And that's exactly how all this works. Like, what I believe now is, sure, 30 years ago I had an out-of-body experience. I became suddenly sighted. I can see in the spirit world. Nobody else can see in the spirit world. But I believe that over time, all of us are going to be at a high enough frequency that we're going to be able to see in the spirit world. I do believe that. And here we are, 30 years later, and what I know for a fact is there's a lot of you out there that can see stuff. All right, next one. Hiring a roofer. So I have a house that's about 130 years old and needed a brand new roof. It has a high pitch, so we're interviewing different roofers who we're going to hire. We go to hire this one roofer company, and there's a lot of chaos that's happening around. Now, my house is old and it's haunted, so I expect a little bit of chaos, but this was over-the-top chaos. So I went into meditation, and I just tried to get some unseen information, and I was told by Spirit that the head of the company has a really bad drug problem and is using all the money in the company to buy drugs, and they might be gambling, and that the company is going to go bankrupt soon. So I got that information. I was able to kind of do some energy work to help calm things down. But the crew, I started working with the crew and started just talking to them and getting them settled, and how do you like your job and things like that. And we had a really good relationship. They got the roof done, and the company went bankrupt. The head guy on the job came back and said, yeah, they found out that the head guy had a drug problem. So what I'm saying is, if I were to say that ahead of time, people might think, oh, how can you prove that, right? How can you prove that, Nancy? And yeah, it's me. Yeah, I've been doing this for 30 years, but that doesn't mean I'm the only intuitive person in the world. A lot of people, just like you, maybe, are having experiences like this, but because you know you're going to get challenged, or they're going to say, how do you know that for a fact, that you don't say it. In that 30 years, I didn't say it for a long, long time. And I have to, if I can be really honest with you, that's one of my biggest regrets, is that I cared more about what another human thought about me than I cared what the spirit world was asking me to do. But don't wait as long as I did. All right, let me share you with another story. So, back to my old house. So here I am, I'm sitting at the same desk, doing some work at the same desk, and suddenly there is a soul that comes in, a young man, I'd say he was in his 20s. He's a spirit. He said, can you help my friend? And so I stopped what I was doing. What's your friend? Now I can see this young man. Nobody else can see him. And I'm like, how can I help you? And he's like, can you tell my friend that I said hello and that I care for him and not to do it or something like that. And so I said to the spirit, I said, well, there's about 12 construction guys working in my house right now. We were restoring it. And I said, how am I going to know who your friend is? And this spirit said, I'll take care of that if you will just please, 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 please give them the message. So I opened the door to my office, and there is this big guy like blocking the whole doorway. And I knew that was the guy I was supposed to talk to. So I said, excuse me, so I'm a medium. He goes, what's that? And then I have to remember, not everybody knows what a medium is. So a medium is someone who can communicate for the loved ones on the other side, somebody who has died, who's passed on, and I can communicate for them. Not 100% of the time, I just want to say that, but this particular day I could. And I said, you have a friend that's coming through. He wants me to tell you he loves you. He wants you to know he's okay, and he's asked me to pass on this message. Don't do it. Don't do it. Take good care of yourself. And so he looked at me like I was a bit strange. So what's happening here? It's unseen. I don't know his friend. I don't know him. I heard a voice that nobody else can hear, but how can I prove it? I couldn't. But I did it. I gave him the message. So he comes back the next day with the crew, and he seeks me out, and he asked if he can talk to me privately. And he shared with me that he and his buddy had been drug addicts together, and his buddy had died of an overdose, and he had been sober for 6 years, and he was going to go home that night and do drugs. So how could I have known that? I couldn't prove it, right? It's an unseen world. So what am I hoping to accomplish by making this video is that we have to stop this. We have to stop this business of prove it, this prove it business. Now, I do believe in that saying, trust but verify. But there's a lot happening in the world, and so many frequencies happening in the world that we can't prove. In politics, there was a lot that was hidden that became revealed. And because we didn't see that the corruption was happening, we didn't believe that it was happening. And so there's real life things that you can prove that corruption was happening, but we couldn't see the proof, right? So there's a lot going on here. I just want to inspire conversation and inspire deeper aspects of, can you believe it? Because it comes back to the blue light. Yes. When the blue light beings by this time came in to visit me, I had had so many unprovable experiences that I knew it was true. So, and yes, I can see the blue grids. And yes, there's a lot of people in the world that can see blue grids. But this one person that wrote said, I can feel it. It feels strong, but I'm panicky because how do you know? How can I prove it to myself or to anyone else? And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you have to have faith. So I said, can you see happiness? Can you see sadness? Can you see when you walk into work and it feels thick and heavy and you're like, what just happened? And they'll say, well, so-and-so just got fired. You felt it. You felt the heaviness of it. You felt the tension in the office. That's what's called intuition. So that is intuition. So the reason why I want to bring this up now, I've said that, is the whole world is waking up to intuition. And what is intuition? Intuition is like a higher sensory experience. So yes, we can see, we can taste, we can hear, we can touch, we can feel things on the inside, those emotions. But we get a lot of information that is from the unseen world. We can feel and sense frequencies in an unseen, unknowable, sometimes unfelt way. And so I invite you to look at what are those ways that you might be literal, linear, black and white in your thinking about what's going to help you determine what's real and what's not real. And I invite you, before the end of this video, I invite you to take a look at how you measure reality. And I'm going to bet that you might measure reality based on how your mother did, or your father, or your grandparents, or your professor at school. It might even not be the ways that you measure reality. But we are being invited to expand consciousness. This blue light that came through was an enormous awakener of consciousness. And what does that even mean? We don't know. But I bet we're going to have a much better idea next year and the following year and the year after that. So right now, let's have trust, let's have faith, and let's start to play a lot with that intuitive sense of self that may not be seen or knowable right now, but it doesn't make it any less real. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in to this video, and I would love to hear your stories about experiences you had that was unseeable, unknowable, but turned out to be true, so that we can start to awaken in those ways together. All right, take care. Bye-bye.